This is Growth Guide, a podcast exploring the depths of curiosity, questioning everything in the name of growth. I'm your host, Brian D'Alessandro. Damin Hagglund is an Ayurvedic specialist with quite an extraordinary journey. He lived in India for 18 years and has studied with many great masters. In 1995, while searching for relief from sciatica, he met Dr. Madusudan Ray. After implementing the warrior system of Ayurveda, Damian was able to heal himself and, after much dedication and persistence, became Dr. Madusudan Ray's first Western disciple. Damian practices a form of martial arts massage called Marma, where he uses specific points on the body to deal with any disharmonies. With a no-nonsense attitude and approach, he has dedicated his life to serving others by sharing his experience and knowledge of Ayurveda in Europe, Australia, and the United States. Hey there, Damian. How are you,
Hi,
brother?
Brian. I'm very good, very good. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
Oh, absolutely. When I was starting this, you were one of the people that came to mind as just an individual I kind of met randomly on my journey, and immediately we had this connection, and it seemed to transcend anything that we were even doing or talking about. And I think it'll be fun to get into some of that here. You have a really unique background, and the work you do is incredible. And I think there are a lot of people that don't really know about it. So, you want to share a little bit about your background in Ayurveda and Marma?
Well, as a child, I grew up in a Vedic tradition called Vaishnavism, and it's the Bhakti Yoga path where you practice devotion and trying to see all souls on planet Earth as equal, showing respect to all living things equally, because they're all children of Mother Earth and the sun and the universe. And I went to a monk boarding school where we studied math and science and geography and all the Western topics, as well as Vedic literature. So there was the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, um, the Puranas and the Vedas, as well as learning about different cultures and different practices that are done around the world. And in that time, I was taught Ayurveda was one of the subjects, and yoga. And I was only 6 years old, so it was a lot of fun to practice those practices. Years later, I got out of boarding school when I was 11 and went to primary school and in Australia and high school. And then I kind of wanted to go back to India to study further in the Vedic wisdoms. So when I was 16, my mom got me back to India, and I searched out for masters to learn different forms of wisdom that the Indian culture has. And I actually ended up learning Ayurveda due to personal issues. I was getting sciatica when I was 19 years old. Um, and I searched out for Ayurvedic doctors. And I finally met this guy who was, because Ayurveda has quite a few branches of different practices, and he was in the practice of Marma and dietary lifestyle. And so he helped me with my sciatica. I basically never have had sciatica since the day I met him. And it was through some dietary changes and massaging my pressure points and doing yoga practices to get my alignments. Very simple stuff, all things that I did at home by myself. And then I was very interested to learn this science because it was so simple. And I did it on my own, really, because I was 19. He refused to do any work on me.
Interesting.
And
So he would not work on you because you were that young?
yeah, people who are having chronic or severe ailments, he'll work on. But if you're young and you can do this stuff yourself, and it's not severe enough for him to, because Ayurveda is all about empowerment, and each individual's Ayurveda is different. We come from different backgrounds and different cultures. We have different genetics. People from the northern territories would have a different diet to people from the equator. We've accustomed ourselves to certain foods and have the microbes in our stomach that help digest those foods. Um, so these were all just very simple things that I totally made sense to me. Ayurveda is my Ayurveda. His Ayurveda is different. He's from India and he can handle spices and grains and lentils. I'm Swedish and European genetics. So for me, it's much more a fatty, richer diet from, I can't do as many grains as he can and spices. So these were just simple things that really made sense to me that Ayurveda is an individual's practice of understanding the seasons, the temperature, your mood, what's your schedule like, and you tailor everything to your individual mood and your emotions. So Ayurveda is very unique to each individual. I really like that idea of Ayurveda. And so I asked him if I could study, and he let me come to the kids' yoga classes in the mornings at 5 to 7, and I'd be there every single day, rain or shine, do the yoga with the kids. And there's this practice called Malkamba, where there's a big wooden pillar that the kids do the yoga on and climb up and down.
Where was this exactly?
In India, in Jagannath Puri, which is on the east coast of India. It's about 500 kilometers south of Calcutta.
Okay.
Kolkata, it's called now. He accepted me as his student after I'd done yoga for a while with the kids, and I was dedicated because what he wanted, he never took any money from me. He said, the only thing that I can actually give him is my time. Time is the only thing I have. I don't have anything else. And I can give him my time, undivided attention, present, and then he'll teach me. That was what I had to, that was my pay. Yeah.
It's amazing
Yeah.
what value and what our currencies are. We are often born into a conditional world where whatever is valued around us becomes our values. And that must have been so profound to have that shift in teachings from someone at such a young age.
Well, I'd already been taught that concept of time is all we have. When I used to say to any of my teachers, if I hadn't like gotten a practice down really well, I would say I didn't have any time. They would always say, time is all you have.
Mm.
And it's sunk in, slowly over the years of hearing smart people telling me that time is all I have. I can only give time to my friends, time to my family, time to my work, time to myself. And that's really all I have. That's mine. So yeah, that principle allowed me to just study with him as an apprentice. I would just be around, giving my time, taking no notes, just follow him around and watch him doing his work and help him and assist him. Watching him work with different cases of different types of ailments is how I kind of learned. I studied with him for 9 years all up before I left to go to England for a while. I was in England for 2.5 years. Then I was in Australia for 3 years in Sydney. And then I moved here to the US in 2008. And I've been going back and forth between LA and New York. And I got to Portland and Burlington. And
Yeah. And I probably met you a little after you landed in New York, right? It was probably around 2010.
yeah,
And it was in the East Village. I remember came to a small apartment and you were, I didn't know what to expect. I knew I was going to this guy who does Marma massage and it's like a martial arts type massage. And, no, I didn't even know if I knew that at the time. And I just saw you said, come in, you were sitting there, just your shorts, no shirt on, barefoot, and I think you were smoking a cigarette at the window, and you just looked over at me, and you just looked me up and down, but not in a judgmental way, but in a way where I just felt this connection. And from there, I mean, we just went on to conversations without any impetus to start them. It was kind of like this returning to, and we went into these deep crevices. And at the same time, you started going through your massage, which I'd love for you to explain. But you went through the sequence of the different Marma points. I mean, that it's an intense process, especially if you've never done it before, and especially if you're tight, as I was at the time. And um, you at one point broke out a wooden spoon and started massaging in my belly button. And oh my goodness, it was like the best, worst pain ever. And the whole time you're giving this like reading of the body. You were listening to how the body was responding to your touch on these points and explaining, and they really resonated. I mean, you hit right into liver deficiencies that I had, and then we started talking about the gut and digestion. Just, I mean, an incredible experience. Can you elaborate on what you're actually doing there and what's going on under the hood?
The first thing that an Ayurvedic practitioner does is assess a person's body type. So if you're slender and thin and light boned, then you're probably of the thinker, the Vata type. Uh, Not a lot of mass on the body. So the nerves are a little more exposed. There's people a little more sensitive to environment and food and hyper aware because the nerves are more exposed. And then you have the medium body type, which are more the muscular hunter body types. They're quite muscular and athletic and passionate and driven and can kind of endure a lot. And so those body types are more solid in their frame. And then you have the gatherers, which you would call kapha. The hunters are pitta, and the kapha types are very heavy boned. Their forearms can be the size of our calf muscles, and they have a really solid bone structure, so their body holds a lot more mass on it. And that body type is very consistent, amazing memory, capable of caring for a lot of people and energy because they're able to deal with more on themselves and around themselves. So this is the first thing we assess. Which body type are you? Now, if you're the slender body type and you're too slender, well, that's showing me something immediately about how your nerves are overly uh, available to the environment. Yeah, more mass, your nerves are more protected. So that person could be having anxiety or sleep trouble, or they could be having dry skin and restless arms or legs. There's a lot of things that come with that, which is well known, yeah, amongst any Ayurvedic practitioner. And so there's an assessment that happens because when I touch your pressure points, I need to already have an idea of where you're at. So I know how much pressure your body is willing to take and what's a healthy amount of pressure for you. And then, your voice is going to dictate a lot. If someone's speaking and then that means there's too much tightness in the nerves.
Mhm.
And if the voice is deeper and slow, if it's really slow, then the person is probably having low self-esteem, or there's the energy isn't flowing properly in the body. So you can tell a lot of things through sound. Then the hands and feet, the extremities of the body always get punished if anything's wrong in your body. If you're running low on healthy fats and collagen, you probably have dry hands and feet and forearms. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or if there's inflammation, you can see the joints are inflamed because the body's trying to protect the heart and the brain. So the extremities, just like you get frostbite on your fingers and hands because the body sucks the heat to the center. So these are some of the assessments that happen, which I did when I was looking you up and down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like someone's looking through you. When you go to an Ayurvedic practitioner, it feels like they're looking into you and through you and around you. But that's because there's this, your body is revealing something. You've come to me with a desire to shift or heal or create a flow of energy or become more aware of yourself. So your body is like, hey, here's a reader. Let me tell you everything. And actually, the idea is that you're coming to learn how to read those things yourself, because I'm not a reliable source of your health. I can only kind of educate you in the stuff that I learned from my teacher, which I use to keep my own health balanced. And that's what, when you lay down, it's all about, I'm checking your alignments through your feet and your toes and your heels, checking if your legs are aligned. If something's off, it's usually in the tailbone or the lower back, which comes from the core. The abdominal muscles have cramped up. Our gut doesn't only digest food, it digests information, environment, it digests friends, conversations that we have, what's going on in our political and environmental scene on planet Earth. We're having to digest it all.
Mm-hmm.
Undigested information turns into knots in the body. And if there's too much coming your way and you can't digest it, the stomach cramps up and turns into knots. Or if food we ate didn't work, or we had a fight, or we nearly got into an accident, any of these things can create a knot in the stomach. And then that creates all these alignment issues, which is what I had and how I met my teacher. I was getting sciatica, but I really had a strong, healthy spine. It was my abdominal muscles were twisting and pulling on my back. So he just taught me how to massage my belly and undo those knots and do the fire breath, where you do the inhale, expand your belly, exhale, contract it. And I did that, and it released all that energy that was trapped around my abdominal area. And my spine has been great ever since, because I keep those practices going. Because Ayurveda is your Ayurveda. Someone else might have circulatory problems, so they need to do things for circulation. But I particularly had sciatica, so I do things for sciatica. And then the pressure points that we're pressing are like portals into different pathways in the body. And it's a little bit like a piano. Each pressure point is a different note. None of the pressure points feel the same. They all have their own feeling. And that frequency or sound that's being produced by the pressure point, it connects to the liver or the kidneys or the endocrine system. So really, Marma is a science you want to practice yourself. Like if you come to me, I'm really just trying to make you understand what it is so you can do it yourself. Because why should I have to sit here and use all my skills to tell you what your liver is saying when your liver is in you? It's already there.
And it's saying it to you, right?
Yeah. And it wants to talk. The liver's trying to tell us, don't drink 3 drinks. Like I can handle 2 for you. Don't drink them so close. Give me some time. Have some cheese. Have some good fatty like fish or something with all those sugars so that there's a balance. The liver's trying to tell us this. And so Ayurveda is all about listening to the weather, listening to your emotions, listening to your heart, listening to your systems. And yeah, a lot of us are very disconnected, and it's scary to start to listen to your intuition and listen to your body because it's a bit warped and whatever is going on. But it's just like rescuing a puppy. It just needs love and care, and it'll growl a little in the beginning, but you give it enough love and kindness and support and understanding and listen, and that puppy gets healed and it wants to cooperate and be a friend.
So interesting how quickly we'll jump into rescuing a cute animal, yet we struggle with being the heroes of our own story, our own challenges. I think systemically, it's so much easier to outsource our decision making or our healing or health and wellness to somebody else. And I think that's probably something that could be scary to people too. Once you are pulling back the curtain and saying, oh shit, I have a direct line to what's going on inside of me and I can choose to heal this, there's accountability. And that I think is another one that could be big for people. The way I experienced that with you was very warm and open. You offered it in a very easy way to onboard.
Yeah, a lot of the work I actually do is online like this. I do Zoom calls and I educate people in what Ayurveda is and Marma and how to apply it into their lives so it becomes a personal experience. Because my Ayurveda is different and I can share what experiences I've had, but pretty much most of the time, my wife is the same body type like me. We don't eat the same food. We don't always have the same diet. We're in different moods at different times. And but she practices her Ayurveda. Yeah. So she's
Mhm.
eating what she feels like and what feels warming and happy and cozy to her. That's super empowering. And yeah, sure, maybe your friends will laugh and joke at you once and twice. But actually, then they're going to be like, wait, what's that shake that you're drinking? And you're like, well, when I'm super busy, I only have liquid food
Mm.
and I put a good amount of fat and protein and sugars, healthy sugars. So it's a balanced release of energy. And I use this shake to get through busy days. And then they'll be interested. Yeah. Personal Ayurveda doesn't feel like you're teaching somebody something. You just this is what you do.
Yeah, you're
That's what
sharing.
yeah, which is what I do. That's why it felt warm to you because
Yeah, and
I'm just sharing.
inspiring. I wanted to experiment and explore. I mean, we spoke about that connection with gut and how to become, because I firmly believe in the, Hindu concept of the three brains with the mind, the heart, and the gut, the stomach. So that really resonated. And you gave me advice to, start the morning drinking just some warm tea, just so that you
Yeah,
can feel the sensation of connecting with the stomach. And then for my nervous system, which was a bit beat up at the time, you had put me on a regimen of raw dairy. So I got involved in an illegal underground raw dairy co-op in New York, which was hilarious. But yeah, I learned a ton just from, you know, experimenting. And then I built some more confidence in myself to listen to what my body was saying or what my intuition was saying. And I guess that's kind of part of it, isn't it?
very much so. I would say the two things that I pretty much advise everyone to do is drink small cups of hot water or tea throughout the day so that you can connect with your gut. Hot water has no signature. It has no flavors. It's very simple. Just some liquid in the stomach. Normally, when you put something in your stomach, your brain and body shut off a little and give all the energy to the gut. But if there's no food there, you're just connecting with your gut. There's nothing to digest. So all that gut energy is just sitting there twinkling,
Mm.
sparkling energy. And you can just kind of connect with it. Be like, hey, my friend, how are you? And doing that throughout the day before meals, just taking that little bit of time to connect with the gut 4 or 5 times a day within a year, your gut can tell you things that are don't sign that paper. don't do it, sleep on it, like stuff like that. It becomes more involved in your day-to-day life because it's being requested to and being honored. And that's why the Marma Mats, which is one of the things that I sell, that my teacher actually showed me and taught me about. They've got all these little spikes on them, and you basically walk on these things, or massage your hands to connect to your body. And of course, doing yoga practices and exercise and stuff that connects you to your body, massaging yourself, because we live so much in our mental brains in today's time. We're very electrical, and it's kind of nice to get a little more chemical and feel our feelings more and listen to our feelings and what the body's saying, what the gut's saying, what the heart's saying. Start to listen to the other parts of us and live more like a unit.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember when I and I think I got turned on to your Marma Mat. I have the old school version. I'm excited to
Yeah.
try out the new ones. But and for anyone who's just listening on audio here, it's a square mat about what, a foot by a foot or so, and it has these little pyramid shapes on there, and there's an acupressure sensation from walking on it. Now, this is one of those things that if you see someone who's been using it walk on it, you're like, oh, cool, that's not so bad. Then you go to take your first step on it, and it just feels like it's pressing all of these buttons in your body you didn't even know were there, kind of. I mean, I guess that's the origin of like the bed of nails, right? I mean, it feels like that.
Yeah, well, actually, the bed of nails is a little different because it's an austerity, a penance that they do to achieve powers.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lot of the Shakti mat, and it's my friend Om. He's from Sweden. He was one of the first guys who created that Shakti mat. And it's more about penance. As
Hmm.
for the Marma mats, they're more about just activating energy in the hands and feet mostly. You can also lay on them and use them around your body, but they're very much for getting deep into the pressure points inside the hands and feet. The extremities on our body have all the nerve endings. So you can very safely access the whole body through the hands and feet. The hands and feet can take a lot of cold, a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and it's very safe to do things on the extremities. That's why I can very easily teach people how to do Marma on themselves, because most of the work they're doing on their hands and feet. And there's some work around the belly, and you can work your neck, and you can work your face and stuff like that too. But if you've done your hands and feet first, it's much safer to touch your body because you've warmed everything up and got the circulation going, all the electricity is flowing properly. It's like a warm up before doing a workout.
Yeah, I feel it warms up my whole body and the systems. It brings them online. I mean, I literally in the morning when I do the Marma Mat, I can't get through my 5 minutes without like a number two coming on strong. I have to
Yeah,
head to the bathroom, and it's just like, all right, to
yeah,
fire it up, and it's just like, all right, let's start the day, and it's
yeah.
amazing.
I literally use it for that. If I don't feel something's like a little off, I'll just walk on it for 5 minutes and boom, it's like it just cleans out and activates everything. So yeah, that's one of my favorite tools that I learned and brought from India. And it took me probably 20 years to figure out how to make these um, in a for a reasonable price, but out of the finest products. I'm not willing to use plastics and stuff. So like that one that you have that I bought from a manufacturing company in India. As
Hmm.
for these are being the wood and the silicone ones that Marma Mat's making now are made in Portland, Oregon, and we're using sustainably sourced mahogany for the wood ones. So it looks like you just got something from 400 years ago. Like these
They're
things look
absolutely
ancient.
gorgeous. They're
Yeah.
so beautifully designed.
And then the silicone one is made out of food grade silicone, And this can be heated up in the oven. I heat them up to like 350, put a towel on it, lay on it, and work the back of my neck. I do all kinds of cool things with it. And I also freeze them, put them in the freezer and try to walk on it when it's freezing cold with some oil on my feet and the silicone. It's like, it definitely wakes you up like fast. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm super excited. We just, me and I joined with a friend of mine, uh, Susan, and we joined together to create this company. And it's been about a year now that we're able to manufacture these at a reasonable cost, because these are designed to go on for generations. They're made at such a high quality that you pass these on to your kids and their kids and their kids. Like my teacher had a mat that was 400 years old.
Hmm.
That's been passed down from his guru to his like, and so that's our sustainability approach. Instead of having reusable materials, we're just using materials that you don't have to ever buy one again.
Yeah, I love the level of intention you're taking on, and also keeping things local as much as you can here in the States. And yeah, I'm, I'm a huge proponent of how you're doing it there. And as someone who's used the product, I can't say enough about it. So yeah, I'm excited for people to give that a try, and we're going to run a promo on this too. So I'm really thankful that you're offering that to the audience, and hopefully people will get to try it out for sure. When you were talking about putting it in the freezer and getting it really cold, it reminded me of a story that you were telling me, because you gave your intro about how, oh yeah, I ended up at a monk school. It's like, wait, what? Like, I have this very cinematic version of what this all looked like. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then also, you you had told me about your martial arts teacher, I think, was like an eighth dan and trained completely on ice for one of them. So can you just hit those two notes, please? Because they're incredible.
So my dad's from Sweden, my mom's from Australia, and they met in Indonesia, Bali, and that's where I was conceived and born. So there was this they're from two parts of the planet. So a lot of the times that India and Southeast Asia was the center of the planet, and they were super into Eastern culture, and they were always in Thailand or, you know, Indonesia or Goa or somewhere in India traveling. So I had kind of already picked up a lot of the Indian. I could make all these Indian sounds like just as a little kid. So
You speak four
when it,
languages, right?
yeah, I speak still quite a few fluently Indian languages, and I understand a lot of them too, because there's 25 languages in India. And when you live there, you interact with so many different, you know, Nepali, Tibetan. It's all just Indian languages. Uh, and so then when my parents wanted to put me in school, I had a really good memory. I could basically memorize a lot of information really quickly. So they needed to put me in a school where I was going to be really busy. And so the boarding school system is, you're busy. We did art, music, science, martial arts, play, all math, science. We were busy. We studied like 10 hours a day. But it was really fun, and learning different languages, and it was very stimulating for me because I'd grown up like that. And India was kind of a middle ground for my parents, and they would come a few times a year, and then I would go back for summer holidays to Sweden, and it was a magical experience that, um, and because I learned yoga and these things for those 6 years, 5.5 years, I was kind of already attuned to it. So I started learning Wing Chun. I learned Taekwondo. I did some Aikido. It was all just like a part of how I'd grown up, and it was just so fun to do. And Marma is actually a martial science. A lot of the pressure points, if pierced or hit in a very particular way by a professional, you can stun someone or knock them out or put them to sleep. Or there's all these martial sciences, but most of what my teacher practices is how to use those points to heal yourself. And my martial arts teacher, Lutz Linke, he's German, but he was living in India teaching Taekwondo. And he actually did his 8 dan on ice in Korea. And so yeah,
it's like straight out
with,
of Batman.
Yeah, I mean, he had to get hip replacements. So just before you go and do 8 dan in Taekwondo, think about your hips on ice. I mean, that would be a lot of stress on your hips, holding your feet and doing kicks and all that stuff But yeah, I have studied extensively different martial sciences. I wasn't really a person trying to get belts and stuff. I was much more just interested in the deeper wisdom behind the science of the martial arts from, different parts of the world. Have such a unique way that they approach it.
Yeah, can you speak to some of those lessons that you got from them?
Yeah, for sure. Like what I remember, I used to get into fights when I was in high school, and once I learned Wing Chun, I haven't really had a fight ever since, because I learned that it's deadly. These things can hurt people, and hurting people hurt people hurt people. So I haven't been hurt. Why should I be hurting people? I also learned that my teacher used to say the best defense is to not take it personally and stay calm and avoid the fight. And that's really what I learned from learning martial arts. It's made me very non-violent and non-aggressive and more respectful to life. Because when you see what can happen to a human body being thrown around and punched and hit and stuff like that, it's actually not pleasant, and it makes you feel super uncomfortable, unless you're doing it as a sport, which is what I did it for. It was fun to spar with friends, and you learn your capabilities, and it's a form of expression too, learning boundaries, what you're comfortable with and not. Discipline, I love the discipline aspect, because I'd grown up with this. We woke up at 3:30 a.m. every day. By 4:15 we were in the meditation in the temple chanting. By 7 o'clock we were having breakfast. It was like we did this every 7 days a week. I did that for years. So discipline actually feels very comfortable for me. I had to work on undisciplining myself when I came to the West. Like I remember, for most of my childhood, I'd never thrown clothes on the ground. If I took them off, they were washed, hung up, and so every cloth that was worn was washed. Like when I took it off, it was washed, hand washed, squeezed out, wrung out, and dried. Yeah, so there was no. So to have a washing basket took a lot of training for me to just like throw clothes away, because the clothes were like, wait, dude, what are you doing throwing me in here? I don't want to be here. Clean me and hang me.
So interesting.
So these are disciplines which are really friendly. In Ayurveda, I actually learned one thing, that Ayurveda is discipline without rigidity. I remember my teacher wanted to teach me this, and he made me sit every morning for 3 months to watch sparrows waking up in the morning, and what their timing was to wake up, and what their procedures and process was. And I learned that sparrows are badasses. Like, these things look small, but they'll beat up a crow, they'll beat up a hawk. Nobody comes near a sparrow's nest. You think that just these little things, there's a reason there's a lot of sparrows. And they woke up every single day between 3:45 and 4:30, but it was never the same time. I recorded for 3 months the exact time they came out of their nest. Not even one time in 3 months did the times match. They're disciplined and they follow the organic flow of nature. Some mornings it's mistier and colder. It takes them a little longer. Some mornings the sun's out early and it's warm straight away. they're up a little earlier. But they're following this perfect connection with nature, and they're very disciplined.
That's
Very,
interesting. It's like this concept of natural discipline, being
yes.
disciplined by the higher order of nature that's guiding us.
If you want to be supernatural, remember it's just natural to be supernatural. And those birds, those things are supernatural. Like their hawks are scared of them. Crows, like these things could beat up anyone. I was like, wow, they look really small, but they're really powerful. It's because they're disciplined and they're connected. They're
Hmm.
in full integrity, in full power mode all the time. They're supernatural. Dolphins are supernatural. I think maybe humans may be the only creatures and domesticated creatures that we have. Domesticated animals aren't supernatural. Everything else is supernatural.
Yeah, I guess everything
Ayurveda,
domesticated, there's this codependency that exists
yeah,
that breaks that connection to the natural order.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Cows, the bell rings at exactly 4 o'clock, and all the cows come running in. Da, 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 da. It's very domesticated.
Yeah, and even I mean with my cats, I know their internal clocks are incredible, but they're now attuned to me more than nature.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
know when I'm going to open up the tin to feed them. And
yeah.
they're there like usually within a minute or two of that time. And that's really interesting. Who are we serving? Are we serving nature or someone else?
Well, I think it's, humans, we've evolved into this domesticated lifestyle, and that's completely cool. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. That's why we've done it. Um, but not losing our supernatural capabilities fully. Like, let's do a 50-50 agreement kind of thing. I still want to be able to breathe and hold my breath, meditate and feel my chakras and feel the energy moving within me, be able to connect and know that it's going to rain within 3 or 4 hours and bring all your things inside. And it's not that hard. We've only done that for billions of years. Our genes, like we know that. So it's very easy to connect back into it. It's just an awareness, listening to all these things that we were talking about, the weather, your mood. This is information that's coming our way.
Hmm.
Yeah. We've got all of our material life and our domesticated society life that we're doing, and it's to honor and respect that. We do that as well. But also to honor and respect ourselves and our family and nature is that supernatural connection with everything that's going on around us and inside us.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot and focusing on myself internally is, self-limiting beliefs. This idea that our beliefs and the ideas that we take in, they shape our reality. And when we like, even when you're talking about this concept of supernatural, because it's been painted in a picture as superheroes in films, or we've belittled anything that's more feminine in energy, like our intuition and even our creativity, where we start to forget that that's our true nature, and we stop believing, or rather we start believing that we can't instead of we can. And it's really that simple to just like I've recently, I realized I had this like ridiculously trivial self-limiting belief that while I practiced yoga for years, I would practice for split pose, and I always had this subconscious narrative like, oh yeah, you're practicing this but you'll never achieve it. And I realized one day, like, well, I'm carrying that. It doesn't matter if I could do splits or not. I mean, sure, it would be great for, martial arts and just, flexibility in general, but it doesn't affect my life in any huge way. But I decided to say, all right, let's see if we can break this belief. And so I found this program for learning to do splits, and I started on it. And all of a sudden, I started hearing monkey mind go when I was doing these routines, and they were carrying a lot of these beliefs that, oh, you can't do it, or just, just stop, this is stupid, why are you even doing it, it doesn't matter, and just these different little, voices that would sabotage it. And so I've been going through it, and I'm like, I think almost 2 months in now. And I started off, I was like 15 inches from the ground. I'm now 3 inches or less than 3 inches
Wow.
from the ground.
Wow.
And it's like, it's been a really cool thing. Again, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't change my life in a big way. Although I'm doing it with my brother, and our hopefully this airs after we've done this, but our agreement was that we don't tell anyone. And then when we go to family gatherings, we'll have a little dance routine and just drop into splits. So that's really the driving force. It has to just be ridiculous.
Ah, that's really good. That's
but
really
but
good.
just being able to track this, the changing of this self-limiting belief is really profound. And I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it relates to how we can open up to some of these subtle practices that are in the natural rhythm and connecting to our bodies, like everything that you do professionally.
Yeah, I was actually made aware of a concept through a friend of mine recently, that a belief is a stagnant idea, and
Mm.
and ideas like to evolve and grow like everything else on in the cosmos and on planet Earth. Everything likes to evolve. That's its
And
nature.
flow.
Yeah, and a belief is forcing an idea to be stuck. And actually, after he told me this, I really deeply thought about, what is my strongest belief? Like, what do I believe in the most? And it was vegetarianism. I'd been brought up with this concept of ahimsa, non-harming, and treating all living things. I mean, I even do, gratitude, thank you vegetables for being as amazing as you are, and thank you for like merging with me in my body and becoming me. And I promise you, once you join me, we can look at the stars and listen to music and do all these fun things. Have you driven a car before? Because once you become me, you can drive a car. Have you driven a sports bike before? Because once you merge with me, you can ride a sports bike.
I
And they're
fucking
like,
love that.
yeah, let's do it. So I've had this, like this warmness and appreciation to all food. And there was just this idea that meat is something different. And so I totally broke out of that belief as soon as I realized that was my most powerful, strong thing that I hold on to, vegetarianism. And first I started eating fish and oysters and, just uncooked meats and stuff, because it's, for a vegetarian, it's a little hard to eat a cooked meat. So I've been eating raw. I even started having beef organ tablets and things that, you know, I've been kind of against or staying away from, sort of thing. And it's been such a freeing practice to me, because
Mm.
now all my other beliefs just crumbled. The word belief crumbled. And I'm just evolving concepts. I'm an evolving concept, and I'm an evolving creature, and so is everything around me. And there's no need to hang on to anything and force it to be anything.
Yeah, I guess we can hold such constriction and even self-judgment and external judgment when we get that tight around these things. Yeah. You start feeling guilty for eating something or not eating something. And it's pretty ridiculous as a concept when you think about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
I remember when I was practicing some of the diets that are done here in the West, like the paleo diet. I was vegan. I've done a lot of different um, diets and practices here. And there was something so stiff about practices that made me eat the same foods every day. And it was like this limited range of food. Um, I actually called my teacher when I was like halfway through veganism, and I was getting like shaky and having like my skin was drying out. And he said, "What diet are you doing?" And I said, vegan. He'd never heard of it. Yeah. Uh, and I explained it to him. He said, look, if you have a name for your food, you've probably got an eating disorder. And I was like, what? He said, "Yeah, because you're an organic creature and there should be no title and no name or no control over food. If you're at your friend's place and or your grandma's made you a really nice, bun that she cooked with her heart, where you're gonna say no because she put eggs in it? Like, stop being Mr. Controlling and eat organically and eat healthy and take care of yourself. Yeah, sure, you could be vegan, but if nature sets you up with the bone broth at your grandma's place, just put your vegan aside." And that was really refreshing to me because I was like,
Mm.
okay, so I can still practice vegan and feel that lightness and that it's so refreshing to be a vegan. Like your head's not cloudy, you've got all this energy and bouncy, but at the same time, I wasn't starving myself of something if I wanted to have that emotionally. Yeah, and or
Or
in
if your body was asking for something because it needed it at a certain time.
yeah,
Yeah, it's that aspect of control that you talk about, or even when you're talking about being disciplined. When you spoke about Ayurveda, what was the phrase you used?
discipline without rigidity.
Yeah, and I think that's feels very much the same with diet. We don't need to label it. We could use it as a guideline, but when it becomes
Yes.
a law, then
Yeah. Our organic systems are unique and the environments that we are in are unique. And being respectful to those things is really what Ayurvedic, the practice of Ayurveda, it's really just tribal people trying to keep the wisdom that they had when they lived out in the wild. As they got into villages and cities, they were like, wait, let's hold on to some of these connections that we had when we just lived as hunter gatherers in nature, not like lose it all. Like we walked on flat paths from village to village, from house to house. It was all flattened paths. And then humans would find if they just walked out off the path and walked on roots and twigs and stones and sand and grass, they would feel super relaxed and zen. And they were like, wait, this is amazing. Let's make little stones that we can walk on. And let's make wooden things that are uneven surfaces. Because guess what? There is no even surfaces on planet Earth. So
Mhm.
we've evolved over millions of years only walking on uneven surfaces. So, that is the Marma Mat is a version, or like pebbles or walking on sand and grass, of keeping that wild.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is something I see across so many of our systems. It gets very homogenized and even sterilized, where we get to this point of trying to smooth everything out. And again, I think it's an expression ultimately of that control. But when we invite in some of that texture, that's what gives us the deepest roots. I mean, it's like that the idea that a tree that doesn't experience any hard winds and rain and hard weather has very shallow roots.
Yes, exactly. These sciences, the idea is that nature is going to come and push you to evolve. The idea is that you could be a week ahead of her and already evolving before you need to get nudged or pushed. And so practicing stuff, being on top of yourself, doing some exercise, doing some meditation, spending time in nature, making sure you're fully present with your children, with your brother, with your wife, with your mom, like fully present. These things give us power. They connect us to ourselves. We get to be us more. We're not losing anything
Hmm.
by doing these things. We're gaining, and we don't have to be nudged by Mother Nature. Come on, kiddo. Come on, kiddo. Evolve. You're going to have to change. Change is inevitable, whether you like it or not. Yeah. Why don't you just do it? And I don't have to keep nudging you, like brush your teeth. Your parents keep telling you to brush your teeth. Hopefully one day you'll just brush your teeth and they won't have to say it anymore.
I love it.
As we become adults, since my daughter came into the picture, I have to really take the word adult seriously. And an adult takes themselves seriously. That's really all it is. And as serious as you can be. Like a lot of my friends who are good dads told me, look, just be you, but classier. And you'll be a great dad. Don't fake it. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't hide who you are. Your kid's going to know, and they're still going to do it. Be you, classy, clean. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah, that feels good.
Authentic.
Yeah, and allow it to guide you to show up just a little better, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to make any dramatic changes. Those aren't real. I can't maintain them. But day by day, I can, there's a couple of times I've tried to parent my daughter the way, say, I was parented, but that's not acceptable anymore. These are consent children. You communicate with them. They participate with you. They're not forced to do things. So I've had these urges come up and I'm like, that's the old way of parenting.
Mm-hmm. Control again, right? Again, it gets back to control because, I remember my wife's incredible around really bringing all the education to our parenting, conscious parenting as we like to look at it. But when she first introduced the idea, when he was first born, let's make sure that if we're going to do something to him, like change him or even pick him up or do anything, to express this to him first, even if he can't say yes or no yet. Let them know this is going to happen, so they're a part of it. I mean, and I just saw yesterday there was this meme going around on Instagram where it was like, if you treated your partner like you treat your kid. And it was this woman, she was going over to, her husband. She was like picking him up by the arms and dragging him out. She was just going over, wiping his face without his permission. And it just showed how ridiculous it is to treat another human being like that. And that's the idea, right? That this is a fully formed soul in a young human body. It doesn't make their soul any less evolved. And so how can we honor that and allow that to enter into this world most gracefully?
Yeah. And I feel like the most gracious, honorable thing I've ever done is making those changes and allowing evolution. I'm not doing anything fantastic. My parents did the same. They got us out of where they were and got us into as much freedom as we could have. So we could now do that for our kids. It's right. That's evolution. And each parent has done what they could with the tools they had and with what they knew. Like I just ask Siri, I don't even have to touch my phone. Like they had to go to libraries and buy books and sit and read them. Try to read a book with a kid and keep the pages in the book. We have this book that we really, really love by Alice Miller. It's called The Drama of the Gifted Child. And it's basically, we keep that with Barona's books. So all of her kids' books, and then there's The Drama of the Gifted Child. And then the other one by Alice Miller is The Body Never Lies. I mean, it's well known. What she has taught is now just spread out throughout the world in child rearing techniques. But all that stuff you were saying, she's a huge component of bringing that into parenting. And that consent, these are consent children. Like they're communicated with.
And what's really cool about that is they're consent children, but when we treat our children with that idea of consent, when we go and interact with other adult human beings, we start to apply the same methodology. And all of a sudden, we're just all kids here and we're treating each other like equals. And that becomes really, really, really incredible. Thank you so much, Damian Hagglund. You are an amazing, amazing human being. Thanks for joining us this week on Growth Guide. A big thanks to our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Project New You. I'm a huge fan of their Nitrovite nootropic brain supplement. It's helped me to develop laser focus, a better memory recall, and motivation. Nitrovite has helped me in launching this podcast amongst completing many other projects. Visit growthguide.love/focus to learn more and use promo code GROWTH for 15% off. This episode is also sponsored by the upcoming film Thrive 2. This is what it takes. A follow-up to the 2011 hit Thrive, which is one of the most widely viewed documentaries in history with over 90 million views. If creating a better world matters to you, don't miss it. Visit growthguide.love/thrive. Make sure to visit our website, growthguide.love, where you can find freebies, exclusive content, and subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. If you found value in listening, I'd really appreciate a rating on iTunes. I can't tell you just how important this is. Or spread the love. Tell your friends, your fam, heck, tell your spirit animals. And follow me on Instagram at growthguide.love. Be sure to tune in next week for our newest episode.